take a look too at your site for, I would say, speed and accessibility, right? You want to make sure, and this is very helpful too for deciding, say your website's only a couple years old, like some of you said, do we need a full redesign? Do we want to do a partial redesign? Do we want to just add a new section, right? So when you're kind of deciding about how much effort you want to put into your redesign, look at your current site's speed and mobile performance and look at its current site's accessibility, right? And if say the current website speed is just really terrible and there's nothing you could do about it, then you're probably due for a full redesign, right? Or say you have a lot of accessibility problems. You've been using your brand color heavily in the design and it's very light. It's not dark enough. There's not enough contrast. Then also you could maybe swap out that color, or you may be due for a full redesign. So I'll show you some tools now. If anyone wants to put in the chat, if you want to put in your website, I'll do a live demo of how you would evaluate your site speed and your site accessibility, what tools you can use to kind of see that. So if anyone wants to put their website address in, you can do that. Otherwise, I'll kind of grab a random one from an attendee that I already looked up. So speed, what we're going to look at for speed is in my little toolbox here, I have that page speed insights. So page speed insights, this is a tool that Google makes. It's a free Google tool. I've got a volunteer here, emerge-mn.org. So what you do is you put in a website. You do have to do one page at a time. It doesn't scan your entire website, but you put in a URL and you analyze it. And it's going to give you a performance speed score for both mobile and desktop. So it's going to sit here just for a little while and run this tool here. Sometimes it takes, 30 seconds to a minute. Put in the chat if you've ever used this tool before. So this says no data found. This just means that it hasn't already collected publicly like real data from the public. So if your site is very, very high traffic, like, a big site like CNN.com, that will have public data they've already captured in here, but most of you won't have that. So now this is the performance for mobile, and you can see mobile versus desktop. So here's the mobile performance. So this is not terrible. So the score goes from 0 to 100. 68 is not terrible. We generally say you want to be 70 plus for mobile and you want to be 80 plus for desktop. So what this tool does, it's testing the performance, giving you a score. It's showing you a preview right here of what the mobile view is going to look like. And then it has all these different statistics. So 2.9 seconds, that means that's how long it takes for the screen to kind of show up the majority of the design. 4.5 seconds until the site is interactive. And you could say scroll or click on links. So that's what those things mean. And you have very good speed and very good blocking time. This just is like things that are loading like scripts or fonts or things that block the interaction. So this is pretty good. This is not bad. Here's the little timetable, right? The timetable of things loading. So you can see how the site loads in on a phone. And then here's their recommendation. So serve the images in a different format, reduce unused CSS, reduce initial server response time. So this is related to your website host, meaning that you could potentially optimize your site or potentially get a better website host. This basically means that you've got a bunch of design code in there that isn't being used for the page that's being loaded. And the images means that you could improve these image sizes. So these images are fairly large. They could be probably reduced. So that's just kind of a quick, and then here's other things. So this is a quick little thing. We'll click desktop. So desktop 94, good job. That is well within what you would want. So this website is fairly good performing. You could definitely make some improvements at mobile, but I would not say it's terrible. I wouldn't be, worried. I wouldn't be worried about it. So this again gives you all the same numbers, and you'll notice the numbers are all much better. So what this tool does, it's kind of simulating loading your page on a phone versus a computer. Computers are much more powerful than phones. So generally your performance number on the desktop will be higher. Now, if you see that it's flipped, if you see that, the mobile actually performs better than the desktop, That is really interesting, and I've seen that before, and that's definitely a sign that there's major improvements that could be made. That your mobile is optimized much more, and your desktop must either be loading huge images or doing other things that are hindering the performance. So again, you've got this response time. So I'm not sure who you can put in the chat if you want who you host with, but this could probably be reduced with either some hosting tweaks or like tweaks to the actual WordPress settings. So that's how do you evaluate your speed. If someone else wants to volunteer, or I can keep with Emerge MN, we can also look at that accessibility. I was talking about accessibility. So we use the Wave website accessibility tool. And if you want to know anything about website accessibility, really, this website is phenomenal. Okay, we had someone who just tested their site too. That's awesome. And of course, feel free if you want, pull up these tools on your own. So a 39 of mobile and a 70 of desktop. There's definitely some improvements that could be made there then. And actually, sometimes it's small things. So I wouldn't like freak out if you see a low number. Sometimes it can actually be small fixes. Other times it's not, we have to look. But so yeah, 39 on mobile is a little bit slow. So if you want to know anything about accessibility at all, this is just a phenomenal website, right? This is from WebAIM, which is accessibility in mind is what that stands for. So does anybody else want to check their site for accessibility quick? Or if you want to put one in the chat, I'll wait a little bit if anyone wants to submit a URL. Otherwise, I'll just take a look at Emerge again. Let's see. So this again, you do have to do it sort of one page at a time. It's not going to scan your full site. And I actually don't recommend those tools that scan your full site. They are extremely expensive usually, and they actually still miss a lot of things. So I'm going to run this here on Emerge. Nice. So the pop-up triggered too. So this basically loads your website and looks at the code, looks at a bunch of different things, and gives you sort of a score. So 0 errors. That is great. That's a good thing to see, the 0 errors. When you click on the details, then you get a detailed list of all the errors. I'm probably going to look at another site too, so I can show you what a quote unquote error looks like. So you do have some contrast issues. Okay, so contrast issues and a few alerts here and a few other things you could improve. But in general, the major things here, you've got your language defined, stuff like that. You have your navigation defined, all of these different things defined, which is great. Contrast, it's going to throw some contrast errors for sure. Anything over video, really anything over a video or photo is generally, even if it is high contrast, you'll get an error just because this tool can't tell with the moving pictures, right? Sometimes the contrast is probably good enough, sometimes it's not. So in general, this is problematic for people with poor vision. Putting any kind of content over video is problematic. So I would recommend, probably reducing the amount of content that's over this video if this video is really important. If what's in the video is not so important, making it much darker or putting a black box, so sort of a little bit of transparency over the entire piece of content. For sure, this is going to be problematic, these two colors. That's very light. I'll have to test the contrast. Again, you have text over images, kind of a no-no without some type of thing to make sure the contrast is high enough. Same thing there. So it's really just, it looks like contrast issues. So now if you ever want to test, that contrast, then of course you can plug in these two numbers. You can plug in this color. I'll use my color picker tool. You can grab this color right here. So there's the color code for it. You can grab that color code, and that other tool, which I was showing you, is this contrast tool. So the contrast checker, you can put in, your background color was this color here. You can put that in. Boom, you see that color, and then you can change this to white. And so you're seeing, and this is failing. This is failing both AA and AAA contrast. So the contrast is about 2 to 1. You need to be higher than that. It's 4.5 to 1 for generally considering normal text. Is that that's 4.5 to 1 is the target. So definitely these colors are problematic, unfortunately. So it's not super bad. Generally, you have 0 errors. So that's not too bad, but the colors, some of the brand colors, these are going to be problematic. You're definitely going to want to change that. So that's a quick, I'll do one. I'm going to pull up one other site too, just because I want to see if I can get something with an error to show you what some of the common errors might be. Okay, we do have some errors on this site. Okay, so empty headings. So that is in the code somewhere. You've got a heading. So this is another contrast, very low contrast. This means somewhere you've got a heading tag and it has no content. So heading tags are super important for accessibility because that is how these screen readers and alternative tools break up a website. So someone who can't see can scan it, right? And find the content they want on the page. Again, contrast errors. The contrast errors are extremely common. This is, far too light, that blue. So again, actually not a huge amount of errors. So that's good. But you've got some contrast things to look at. So that is kind of speed and accessibility. That's how I would test and evaluate a site.